Mention hudud and what comes to your mind? Most probably visions of beheading, decapitation, stoning and public caning, and other horrendous images. But is this what hudud, the Islamic Penal Code, is all about? Is it just about capital punishment?
Also in the news today, the beheading of an Indonesian maid in Saudi Arabia has strained relations between Jakarta and Riyadh to the breaking point. Indonesian President Bambang Yudhoyono has slammed Riyadh for what he described as breaching of international norms. The following footage may be disturbing to some of our viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The 54-year-old Riyati binti Sapubi was beheaded by a single blow of sword earlier this month.
There are laws which have been prescribed and specified by Allah in the Quran, and it covers basically about 5 or 6 cases. Besides hudud, there's the qisas and there's takzir, which covers other issues. So hudud ni covers basically the question of adultery, the question of qazaf, the question of stealing and robbery, and some say that drinking is hudud, some say it's takzir, some say apostasy is hudud, some say it is takzir. So it is an issue that needs to be further clarified, and if the Muslims themselves are not clear about it, then obviously more so the non-Muslims, right?
Bila kita sebut perkataan hudud pada hari ini, dia lebih terfokus kepada hukum hakam, undang-undang yang telah Allah Subhanahu wa taala tentukan kaedah perlaksanaannya, yang Allah Subhanahu wa taala telah tentukan jumlah perlaksanaannya, di mana ia tidak boleh ditokok tambah kecuali ada kemaslahatan yang tertentu di mana ia terikat dengan hak-hak awam dan hak-hak individu. Berbeza dengan hukum qisas, berbeza dengan hukum ta'zir. Hukum qisas ini dia lebih juga ketetapan Allah Subhanahu wa taala, ketentuan Allah, tetapi ia lebih terikat dengan hak-hak individu. Jika individu itu memaafkan, maka ia dimaafkan. Qisas maksudnya hukum balas balik. Sekiranya seseorang itu dia memutuskan telinga temannya, maka telinganya harus diputuskan. Jika seseorang itu mencederakan saudaranya dengan mematahkan hidungnya ataupun memutuskan hidungnya, korek matanya contohnya, butakan matanya, maka harus dibutakan semula matanya. Itu hukum balas balik. Dan hukum balas balik ini dituntut di dalam Islam, memaafkan. Ini qisas kerana ia membabitkan hak individu, bukan hak awam ataupun hak Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Itu hukum had. Adapun hukum ta'zir yang juga ramai daripada kalangan kita lupa untuk membicarakan tentangnya. Ta'zir salah satu daripada hukum-hukum Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Seperti pada hari ini, kita telah melaksanakan hukum Allah Subhanahu wa taala di jalanan. Contohnya, lampu isyarat. Walaupun dilihat apa kaitan lampu isyarat, lampu merah, hijau, kuning ini dengan hukum Allah. Kaitannya sangat jelas untuk menjaga kepentingan dan kemaslahatan awam, umum.
In 1993, the state of Kelantan passed the Kelantan Sharia Criminal Enactment, and in 2002, the Terengganu state government passed a similar enactment. These two enactments by states under the control of the Islamist Party PAS effectively paves the way for hudud to exist in the states. Although Terengganu is no longer held by Islamist PAS, the enactment remains, and even though Kelantan is still under the party, it hasn't been able to impose hudud. Why is this so?
The type of Islamic laws which a state can create is limited by Schedule 9 of the Federal Constitution. That means to say, just because it's a Sharia provision doesn't mean automatically a state can enact it. They are limited by the list of topics which they can make law for, and that is in Schedule 9 of the Constitution. And the list includes matters like marriage, divorce, inheritance, wakaf land, and so there's no blanket provision for the states to make any type of Sharia type of legislation. And on top of that, It's very, very clear in the Constitution that all criminal laws is made by Parliament.
But there is an alternative view. Controversial constitutional law expert and lecturer Aziz Bari thinks that Sharia law, now limited to family and religious administrative matters, could include the Islamic Penal Code as well.
It is sensible to argue that it is a right under Article 11, Clause 1 in particular of the Federal Constitution, where the Constitution guarantees the right to profess and practice religion. So hudud is part and parcel of the Islamic faith. In any case, hudud is just like Islamic banking and Islamic family law, so nothing to be worried about. And I think it's funny enough to find also the support in Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, where you find that it's the right of the community as a whole to express this religious expression. So from a different angle, you see that hudud is or rather has a place in the system.
If hudud were ever to be implemented in Malaysia, can it be exclusive to Muslims only?
Well, they'll have to change a lot more in the Constitution if they wanted to do that. First, they have to state that the issue of criminal law can be governed by Islamic principles. But more importantly, they'll have to change Article 8. So Article 8 is about equality, and Article 8 is very specific that all Malaysians are supposed to be treated equally, except in certain circumstances, and those circumstances does not include criminal law. So if you have a criminal system where 60% of the population is treated one way and 40% is treated the other way, then clearly it goes against the principle of equality in our Constitution. And so they'll have to change that as well if they wanted to do it.
In our Constitution, this right to equality is not absolute, number one. Number two, it's already in the system that we have got dual system. So the argument based on equality and against discrimination, I don't think it's entirely sound to doubt the application of hudud, because to my mind what is important here is that you have got Article 11, which gives the citizen the right to express, or rather to practice and to profess and practice their religion, and that the system already sustained two systems. So in other words, the argument based on equality and against discrimination is not entirely convincing to reject hudud. In any case, Parliament can do anything within its power to exclude the general public. For example, the law for the rulers. We have a special court already. We have a special law for the diplomats, for the foreign mission. We have a special law, for example, in respect to libel that cover only for members of Parliament. So long as there is a good reason to justify it, Parliament can exclude that, and the basis is already there in the Constitution. So I don't think there is any problem with that argument.
You still are confined by issues like the right of expression, equality. These are things which exist and they're there to protect us.
This case of Cik Omar bin Cik Soh in 1988, decided in 1988, has been mentioned, has been cited as the authority to say that Malaysia is a secular state and therefore laws like hudud has no place. But let me say that this case is about actually a challenge to drug law and also the firearms law. And the lawyer sought to argue that these legislations are against the Constitution because they are not Islamic. So the court rejected that argument. So basically the case was about the rejection of the court on the of the argument that Islamic law is the benchmark of the system. So that's, to me, it's pretty fine. But to me, there's nowhere in the decision which where the court expressly said that Malaysia is a secular state. So the case is no good. It's not enough to reject hudud, because Malaysia obviously is not a secular state. And you look at the Constitution as a whole, there are many provisions which basically go against that contention, meaning to say that the constitution is, or rather the state, or rather Malaysia is basically not a secular state.
There is no blanket approval in the constitution that says you can make any type of Islamic laws that you want. It's quite clear that there's a list, and it's quite clear that if you stray from that list, then it's unconstitutional. And besides, let's not forget that we are not an Islamic state. So even the Islamic laws that we pass have still got to be within the boundaries set for it in our constitution. Unless and until we change our entire constitution.
So, then in what circumstances can states implement and enforce it?
None.